The world champion Domaraju Gukesh makes his way to the board. He is taking on the world number 1 Magnus Carlsen. And look at Gukesh there, getting himself seated on the chair, his famous adjustment of the collar, and he has a very, very important game ahead of him. He lost to Magnus Carlsen in their first classical game with the black pieces, now has the revenge match here with white pieces. Will he be able to beat Magnus Carlsen for the first ever time in classical chess? When Magnus actually beat Gukesh in round number 1, he tweeted saying, "When you come at the king, you best not miss." And well, let's see what happens today. Will Gukesh come once again at Magnus with everything he's got? I believe so. There are no half measures for Gukesh. Draw is not enough for him, He's going to go all out with white. You can see him adjusting his pieces. Generally, that's what he does. He will then go into a meditative pose. Meanwhile, Magnus, as he always does, will come a bit late to the game. And that's Magnus's strategy. In the olden days, we had Bobby Fischer. When he used to come to his games, he would come after the game began. It was some kind of a strategy that worked for him, and I think it's the same for Magnus. And there you see Gukesh, everything ready, and we have a little kid there who's going to make the first move. And she's there, so cute. Gukesh, I'm sure, feels the cuteness there, but is fully focused on his game. And there we have Magnus arrives, handshake, takes his score sheet, and Magnus will have the black pieces, writes down his score sheet there. And we are about to begin. The little girl maybe will find it a bit difficult to reach the chessboard and make the first move, but she'll try it. Such a beautiful moment here. She goes e4, and look at Magnus's expression. He has a very nice smile on his face. Magnus is very cute in that sense. He's always very encouraging to little kids. That's one of his beautiful traits that has always been, and he says thank you to her. And guys, we are ready now for the big game to begin. What will be Gukesh's first move? Will he play knight f3? Will he play e4, d4, c4, a handshake, and off we go. 2 hours for both players, and only after move number 40 will you have 10-second increment per move. e4 played here by Gukesh. He's opened his game with 1 e4, and Magnus will most likely go e5, because you don't want to play anything aggressive with Gukesh. Gukesh already has the aggressive mindset with him. e5 played. Knight comes out to f3, and knight to c6 played here. And there you go, bishop to b5. The Ruy Lopez is on the board. And Magnus takes his time and plays his knight to f6. The Berlin, wow, that's interesting. It's one of the most solid openings from black side, and Magnus has chosen it for this game, urging Gukesh to go all out here. d3 is the anti-Berlin, because you can play the endgame line here, but Gukesh says, no way am I going to go in an endgame with Magnus Carlsen. Bishop c5, and one must know that white cannot yet win a pawn because of queen d4 and a double attack. So Gukesh simply goes c3. He is building up for a later d4 in the position. Black goes short castle here. And now white also short castles. Magnus. Well, this position is slightly different because many times white takes on c6, and this time Gukesh hasn't done that. So d6 is played. Now you generally will keep this bishop. It could come back here to c2, and we have a very, very big vibe of the Archangel's variation where the bishop comes to c5. So h3 played by Gukesh. preventing any bishop g4 ideas. And pawn to a6, attacking the bishop. The bishop drops back to a4. And Magnus has many options and choices with him. He goes for the move h6. Makes a lot of sense, stopping any bishop g5 ideas in the position. Goes rook e1. Defending his central pawn here on e4. Maybe later d4 is going to be possible. So b5 played by Magnus. And the bishop will most likely jump back to c2. Yes, that's what Gukesh does. Bishop comes back to c2 here. And we are building up towards a very tense encounter here. The bishop drops back to b6 in order to stay away from the tempo of d4 hitting the bishop. And now Gukesh has many different ideas. Knight d2 makes the most sense because the knight will jump from d2 to f1 to g3. That's the normal way to play here. And Magnus goes knight to e7. He's also going on a journey with his knight from e7 to g6. And Gukesh plays a4, striking on the queen side here. You know, one of the things about Ruy Lopez is that it's a very strategic opening. There's not much happening, but even the best players sometimes don't understand how they land up in worse positions. You can see Gukesh playing d4, putting pressure on the e5 pawn, urging Magnus to take on d4, and Magnus, of course, with all his experience, knows that he must keep this structure. So he goes knight to g6 here. And now Gukesh goes knight to f1. And his idea is to put his knight on g3 and then look at the f5 square. The pawn moves to c5. You can see how Magnus has kept his bishop on c8, looking in both directions. It can go either way. And now the knight comes to g3. Gukesh had an option whether to push the pawn or not, but he prefers to go knight g3 in this position. And now pawn takes pawn by Magnus. And Gukesh will take back. C takes d4. And here b takes on a4. That's a very interesting decision by Magnus. I mean, it's not an easy one. He's made it pretty quickly because on one hand, you know, he does not have to worry anymore about the b5 pawn. On the other hand, his a6 pawn has become a weakness. But what Magnus is saying is, Gukesh, your b2 pawn is also weak. So in a way, I'm fine with this kind of trade-off. And he goes bishop b7. Now looking at the e4 square. And Gukesh also has a tough choice to make. Does he push the pawn? Does he keep it as it is? Yes, he pushes the pawn. He tries to close down this bishop. But on the other hand, the other bishop opens up for black. And now a5, another very useful move by Magnus. Just keep putting the bishop on a pawn on a good square, and the bishop can pop out here to a6. Now the bishop comes to e3. Offering a trade of bishops here. And Magnus comes back bishop c8. I love this move. It's a very nice move. Very beautiful move. Also threatening bishop e3, rook e3, and rook takes b2. So Gukesh pushes his pawn to b3. Seems like a fine move, you know, but is a step in the wrong direction perhaps. He takes on e3. And now fe3, it takes away the f4 square, but rook e3 makes the most sense. But now, can the knight simply jump into f4? And Magnus just jumps in, knight f4. Guys, look at this, knight, amazing piece. Bishop looking here, rook looking here. And as we had mentioned, you know, that things that happen in Ruy Lopez, one of the players gets outplayed without even knowing it. And by the way, bishop c6 played here, and there is a possibility to simply chop this off. Magnus first goes rook b4. Well, this idea of bishop takes h3 is so interesting, guys. Take, king g2, you go back, your knight comes to g4, you start pushing the h-pawn. I wonder if Magnus is tempted. Well, I'm sure he was looking at this sack, but now goes g6. And that's also a very powerful move. And Gukesh tries to go away from this bishop h3 ideas, plays king h1. And Magnus now, will he play h5? No, first bishop a6. Another classy move. Absolute class. Getting the bishop now, taking away the f5 square so that the bishop now doesn't have to control there. Gukesh goes after the a5 pawn here. He wants to win it. Bishop d3 played by Magnus, attacking the e4 pawn 3 times. And he goes knight d2, defending it 3 times and also defending b3. Now attacking a5. h5 played. h4 coming in. You can't play h4. The knight would jump in and this is hanging. So he takes the a pawn. He takes it, but now Magnus is going to take it. He takes on a5. Magnus has 24 minutes. Gukesh has 21 minutes. On time, they both are playing quite well. But the position is completely better for Magnus. h4, I love how he's playing this. If the knight moves away, already knight takes e4 is just crushing. He goes rook a4. What a move, by the way, by Gukesh. He's seen that if you take, I take back, I attack your knight, knight moves, your bishop hangs. So that's some deep play there. Magnus is like, why should I take here? I'll just play king g7. This pressure is too much for you to handle, Gukesh. Gukesh enters rook a7. But the rook is doing absolutely nothing here. Rook d4, now defending the bishop. He goes knight f3, attacks the rook. Man, the game is moving at rapid pace. 9 minutes for Gukesh, 15 for Magnus. And now he takes on g3, the best move in the position. Absolute best. F takes g3 and now just bishop e4. You take here, I check you and it's completely winning. Next move I can take here. No, but Magnus goes knight h3, which is also a very good move because g takes h3. And now this brilliant move, bishop e4, pinning the knight on f3. He goes king h2. And one of the easiest way to win is to take and give a check and play e4. And then this is weak and it's over. It's completely over here. So take on f3. But Magnus first goes rook d1. It's also a great move, by the way. And Magnus, if you look at the position carefully, the material is equal. But the quality of his pieces, the 2 rooks, the bishop, the knight, g4 by Gukesh, hoping for g5 to win a piece. But Magnus is like, thank you so much for that free pawn. Now I'm attacking your bishop. And I would say, like, for most players here, it's already game over time. I mean, what is there to play? Because you're facing one of the greatest endgame experts of all time. You are pawn down. Your position is terrible. Your opponent's knight is jumping in here. I mean, can you even take on b3 here? Just have to worry a bit about knight g5. So knight f4 first played by Magnus. Gukesh goes rook c2. And now taking on b3 should not be a bad idea. But Magnus, trying to be very precise, goes king f6, stopping knight g5. You go rook c7, that is rook f8. So h4 played by Gukesh, king e6 by Magnus. And I think what Magnus essentially wants to do, he's kind of playing it really confidently. Gukesh has 2 minutes, Magnus has 4 minutes. He's moving ahead with his king. And Gukesh gives check. You can look at Gukesh. He's zoning in. He thinks there is some opportunity here. 2 minutes for Gukesh. Attacking the rook here, Magnus. The rook moves to f2. Already some checks here. Possible. f6 played. Oof. Mistake. The best move was rook h8. But f6. And now the best move for Gukesh, rook f3. Not an easy move to spot with just 2 minutes on the clock because king can come in and attack your rook. Your knight is already attacked. But this is where Gukesh has to zone in. He gives the check. Best move there. Magnus goes king e2. But now things running out of control. Rook e4 check. No, he goes rook a2 check. He blocks with the rook, takes, knight check. He's attacking this pawn on f6. Magnus comes to e2, attacking the rook. If you go rook f2, I have king e3. King g3. Brilliant move here by Gukesh. Magnus down to 1 minute 19 seconds. Gukesh has 43 seconds. d5 played. But isn't the f6 pawn hanging? He takes it. Knight is a bit shaky here. Can you start pushing your d pawn? Well, if you play d4, there's knight d7. So he goes rook f8 and hoping that the knight moves and he can give a check and win the rook. But rook f2, beautiful move by Gukesh. Best move. Forcing Magnus to come down to e1. He plays king e1. And now Gukesh plays knight d7, the best move in the position. If you play knight h5, I just take it. He goes knight e2, a big blunder. Massive blunder, takes king e2. Something he has missed here, d4. Because Gukesh knows his knight can come back now. Oh, look at Magnus, he's so stunned there. Look at Gukesh, he knows he has his chance here. Guys, this is a very, very key moment. Gukesh can come via d7 to c5. Look, because this variation, knight e6, d3, knight c5. He brings his knight. Magnus has to push. And the beauty is knight c5. If you play d2, I have knight e4. If you queen, I have a fork. So king e3 by Magnus Carlsen. And now, let's get rolling with your own pawn. No! Knight a4 because d2 was coming. And now you can go knight b2. e4. The e pawn is rolling down the board. h5. Oh my goodness. This is pure drama now. H pawn is queening for Gukesh. Gukesh completely winning. Magnus understands it, of course. He's looking for his final options here. He goes king. King, is he going for the king? Yes, king d2. He wants to push this pawn. But the only move now, maybe knight b6 also works, but knight b2 finds it. Finds it. Knight c4 check coming in. e3 pushed. Knight c4 check. Gukesh sees it. King has to go to e2. And now king f4. And Magnus bangs the table. Oh my goodness.
Oh my God.
Resigns here. Says sorry to his opponent. What a moment this is. Look at Magnus Carlsen there. He's so upset. He was completely winning. But Gukesh won this game. First ever classical win. Let's look at this moment where Magnus bangs the table, but then immediately says sorry to his opponent. It was a moment of great passion, and boom, look at the pieces coming up. Gukesh, of course. Oh, man. Handshake there, and then Magnus Carlsen stops the clock, says, oh my God, says sorry, puts the kings on the board, looks for his jacket, which doesn't exist because he came with none. Gukesh can't believe that he's just beaten Magnus. All that adrenaline is pumping inside him. Magnus goes there and gives a pat on his back. This is one of the most beautiful sporting moments that you can see. Magnus immediately calms himself down and gives Gukesh this pat, which shows that there's nothing personal against him. Magnus was upset because of his own play. And look at